All right, welcome back to the channel. David Benavidez, the 168-pound WBC champion, says that his nemesis and should-be arch rival Caleb Plant is the weakest fighter, the weakest champion at 168 pounds. David, you don't believe that yourself, but let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. David Benavidez and Caleb Plant, in my opinion, the two best 168 pounders. Both fight for the PBC. Both are young fighters. Both of these dudes, and it's a fight, in my opinion, that should happen and should happen very soon. David Benavidez was asked and given his opinion about Caleb Plant, or actually was asked who he thought was the weakest guy champion at 168 pounds. And he says, without a doubt, it is Caleb Plant. And I'm looking at myself thinking, are you nuts? But let's go through it. First of all, Caleb Plant is the IBF 168-pound champion, an American fighter out of the state of Tennessee. He is he's a defensively responsible boxer. He's got quick hands. He goes by the name Caleb Sweet Hands Plant. And I think that is an act, that's a good nickname, good alias, because that's about right, man. That dude can throw them hands. David Benavidez, the WBC champion, also a young champion. I think maybe about a year ago, something like it was a little longer than that. Maybe 3 years ago, I used to do a lot of videos about him, or as many as I could, because when I first saw David Benavidez, I was like, yeah, man, this dude is the truth. This guy can be the best 168 pounder. The fight that people were looking for an earlier part of his career that I thought could come about was the fight between him and Ramirez. Ramirez, if you're not familiar with who Ramirez is, I can't remember his first name, man, but God, he must be having some he really must be having some promotional problems with Top Rank or something, because you just don't. Zurdo Ramirez, yeah, man, it's like you don't even see this dude fighting anymore. But I thought that Ramirez and Benavidez was going to be the 160-pound fight of the future, but with him just going away for some doggone reason, man, Zurdo just disappearing. I know originally moved up to 175 pounds, but there just has to be something going on with him in Top Rank, because the dude's just not fighting, and with this Corona thing going on, he's obviously not going to be fighting for a while, but he just hadn't been fighting around a while. But that was the guy that I thought was really the two guys I thought were going to be the matchup at 168 pounds. Now, David Benavidez had won his WBC championship. He then lost it because, he had some positive tests for some recreational stuff, got caught with a little of that. And as a result, he gets stripped of his belt. He comes back and he fights kid out of, sometimes I'm forgetting these names, man. And this is a shame, that Andre Durrell, right? Because I always mess up. It's Anthony and Andre. This is actually Anthony Durrell. So he fights Anthony Durrell and wins his WBC title back from Anthony Durrell. But in that fight, watching him, man, I'm like, I don't really know if David Benavidez has improved as much as I thought he would. Maybe the hurdle losing his belt, maybe the competition can't force him to do anything else. But, anyway, when David Benavidez won his title, and right before Caleb Plant won his, I think he might have been fighting Medina. I think that's who he was fighting at the time. I really started paying attention to Caleb Plant, and I was like, man, if Caleb Plant can ever, if he can get an inside game to go with the fact, because he's, as an outboxer, he's very, very slick. He's got very fast feet. The dude is a very, very good athlete, man. Quick hands. But my thing was, if he could get some power on the inside, that really could step up his game, right? So there you do. I had one guy, I had David Benavidez at the forefront of 168 pounds. I thought he was the next thing. Caleb Plant comes around, and I'm like, man, that's a really good fighter. If he shows some improvement, then, man, he really can be one of the top guys. Well, David Benavidez, Caleb Plant impressed and did improve. If you saw the fight between him and Jose Escadegui, man, I thought that, man, that was a dog walk. Man, he dog walked Jose Escadegui, which is somebody that just, basically beat the tar out of Andre Dirrell to get the belt. A little bit of a washed Andre Dirrell, but I say that to say that these guys are the top. In my opinion now, these are two of the top 168 pounders, and they are on a collision course. But for what David Benavidez had to say about Caleb Plant, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, the justification that he gave for it was he said that the other champions have more experience, right? Had more experience. That's fair. Callum Smith is an older fighter, and Billy Joe Saunders is definitely an older fighter. At least I know Billy Joe Saunders has more experience and more fights than Caleb Plant does. I also believe that about Callum Smith. But my thing about this is there's absolutely nothing special about Callum Smith. Absolutely nothing. I don't care what his experience is. His experience is also in that last one of those fights that he had over there. I can't remember the name to the guy that he fought over there in the UK. I thought he beat him. Please forgive me for not remembering the guy's name, but I think it was the fight before last for Callum Smith. I didn't think that fight was really particularly close. I think Callum Smith just lost that fight, but Callum Smith gets the decision for the fight. But, Callum Smith is like what Floyd Mayweather Jr. used to say, straight up and down, no special effects. I don't see him doing anything I don't see Callum Smith doing anything with Caleb Plant. And the no punch, he said, so less experience, no punching power, and he gasses out late in fights. I haven't seen him gassing out. I just think that that's a little bit of wishful thinking. But if you look, I can understand every fighter has their weaknesses. Every fighter has things that, they can do better, things you can take advantage of. And you can also, as an opponent of somebody, there's some things you might be wanting to speak into existence. But to say that, that he's a weaker champion than Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders was some dude that tested positive for nasal sprays and had to move to 168 pounds. He fought this this guy from Argentina, and all the Argentine fighter did was mirror him and gave him a ton of problems. He slipped up, and then Billy Joe Saunders caught him with something big and wound up getting the knockout. But Billy Joe Saunders was well on his way to lose that fight. But I think Billy Joe Saunders is a good fight, but his experience, like as far as I can recall, the big wins that he has or fights against David Lemieux. He looked very, very good against David Lemieux. But David Lemieux is somebody just a flat-footed fighter that if he can't knock you out, but Lemieux does have a good amount of punching power, but he's not some world beater, man. He's not, in my opinion, he's not a Jose Escadegui. Maybe of the other champions. And matter of fact, David Benavidez might have. I don't think David Benavidez has a win against a fighter the level of Escadegui, because I don't necessarily think Anthony Dirrell is as good as Jose Escadegui, and I'm not sure if George Groves is either for Callum Smith. So at 168 pounds. If you're talking about experience, I think the guy with the best win against the most difficult fighter at that weight class might be Caleb Plant. But so I don't get how you would say that he's I don't agree that Caleb Plant is the weakest. I think Caleb Plant, with his level of improvement that he's shown, man, there's a good argument that he is the best 168. That he's the best 168 pound fighter. But anyway, it goes. That, in my opinion, is who David Benavidez should try to fight next, because it's the most realistic fight to make. Because they're both PBC fighters. I do not believe for anything that DAZN is going to try to feed Callum Smith to David Benavidez or Billy Joe Saunders. Now, Billy Joe Saunders, Billy Joe Saunders is a good fighter. I don't think very, very highly of Callum Smith at all. He just looks like he's straight up and down. Billy Joe Saunders has a lot more wrinkles in his game, and I do think that he is a very solid fighter. I don't know how well he's going to do against the bigger 168 pounders. He looked like trash. To me, he looked like trash in his last fight, but it could have been just because he, underestimated the guy. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad that David Benavidez is talking about Caleb Plant. And I'm certainly hoping that Caleb Plant and David Benavidez unification fight can happen, this year when boxing comes back, if not, early 2021, because regardless of what either one of those guys say about each other, I think that those guys are some of the best, two of the best young champions in boxing. And I talked about this in a live stream, but 168 pounds is actually a very, very good weight class. And you have some guys that are 160 that can be moving up to 168 pounds. So anyway, you let me know what you think, man. Who do you think is the weak link in the 168 pound division? As you can tell, I'm not doing this video for views, doing this video because we love boxing and want to have and talk about some of these more obscure weight classes and some of the fighters that a lot of people don't know about. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.